Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you're all doing well and having a great day. Today we're solving the Edexcel IGCSE Mathematics B May 24 paper 2 with in-depth explanations. So stay with me as we break everything down in detail. Without further ado, let's dive right in. So in the first question, they asked you to write this in standard form. So the decimal is in this place. So for it to be standard form, the decimal must be in this place. So it needs to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 places to the right direction. So it will be 1 point, so it's 1.596 times 10 to the power, since it's moving in the right direction, so it will be -5. So moving on to the second part, the star Sirius is approximately this kilometers away from Earth. So let's assume that this is Earth and this is the star Sirius. And we know the distance in between them. Let's call this distance D. So this is the distance D. So light from Sirius takes approximately 3142.7 days to reach the Earth. Now we just need to calculate the speed in kilometers per second to one significant figure that light travels from Sirius to Earth. So we know that the speed equals distance by time. So since they're talking about the speed in kilometers per second, the distance must be in kilometers. So this will be, the distance will be 81460 and three zeros again, and 3 zeros, divided by the time taken. The time is given in 3142.7 days. So if you want to convert days into hours, you simply multiply it by 24. And this is in hours, and hours into minutes, you multiply it by 60, and minutes into seconds, multiplied by 60 again. So this will be around 3 times 10 to the power 5 kilometers per second. Moving on to question 2, we will not do this yet because it involves compass and a ruler, but I will give you guys instructions on how to do it at the very end of the video. So moving on to the next question. A college offers courses in astronomy, biology, chemistry, and physics. And they denoted these by letters A, B, C, and D. So they have given some information in this part, and the total students is 220 students. So first of all, we need to complete the Venn diagram, and we need to mention X where it's necessary. So the Venn diagram is given in the next page. So A is completely off the grid from all of the three other sets. So we can say that in A's value is 58. So we can put 58 simply inside this A. All right. So we have used this information. Now the intersection of B, C, and D sets, all of them have X in common. So this will be X. And the intersection between B and D set is 48. So B and D is 48. So this will be, this whole part is 48. So this will be 48 minus X. So this information is also used. Now the B intersection C intersection D prime set is 35. So let's first find out the B intersection C set. So B intersection C will be this part. Right. Intersection D prime. So D prime, they're talking about everything except this set D. So the region they're talking about is this one. So this will be 35. So that is it for this information. Now let's look at the other information, which is B union C whole prime. So let's find out the B union C whole prime. So they're talking about everything except this region. Intersection D. So everything except this region intersects with this part only. So the value of this will be 20. So that is the Venn diagram. Now moving on to the second part, they have said that NC prime is 105. So they're actually talking about every region except this part. So if you add all of these values together, you should get the answer 105. All right. So we can create an equation which is 16 plus 48 minus x plus 20 plus 58 plus 0. This will be equal to 105. So the value of x will be around 37. Now, one of the 22 students is chosen at random. Write down the probability that this student studies biology only. So the total outcome is 220. So we know that the total outcome is 220. So 220 will be in the denominator, and in the numerator there will be the number of students that studies biology only, which is this part. So that will be 16. Now we need to write down the probability that this student studies chemistry but not biology. So the scenario is this, that one of the 22 students is chosen at random, but this student studies chemistry but not biology. So it's basically the same thing. The total outcome will be 220, and the required outcome is these two parts. Oh, not these two parts, these two parts, because the student cannot study biology, so you have to exclude these values. So it will be 15 plus 28 over 220. So this should give you an answer of 43 over 220. Moving on to the next question. This is a question about matrices. So triangle A and D are drawn on the grid opposite. Triangle A is reflected in the x-axis to give triangle B. On the grid, draw and label triangle B. All right. So triangle A is reflected in the x-axis, and the resultant triangle is triangle B. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is one of the coordinates of the vertices of triangle B, and this is the other coordinate, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So this will be the other coordinate. Now if we connect these lines, so this will look something like this, and this is your triangle B. Now moving on to the second part, triangle A is transformed to triangle C by a rotation of 90 degree clockwise about the point 0. So this is the center point. So the center point is 0, 0. So you don't need to worry about that. You can just go directly to multiplying the values. All right. So you can write triangle A as in matrix format, which is 5, minus 5 and 1, and minus 2 and 3. And this one is minus 7 and 5. If this is rotated 90-degree clockwise, you can do this in two ways. You can multiply this matrix by the 90-degree clockwise matrix, which is the 90-degree clockwise matrix is 0, 1, minus 1, 0. So this is one way, and the other way is to, since this is the center, so this matrix is, this triangle is rotated about the center. So let's take this point. So about the center, which means it 90-degree will form at this point, somewhere around this point, I think. Wait, just, yep, 90-degree will form somewhere around this point. Now as you can see that if this has a distance d, this will also have a distance d. It must be the same distance, and this must be 90 degrees. So this is one coordinate. And now let's erase this. Now let's take this point. So if I form a 90-degree from this, so this will be the other coordinate. Oh wait, there's a problem. So this is actually 90 degrees. So this is the other coordinate, and the distance are the same. Basically, this forms an isosceles triangle, which is 90 degrees. So this is the other point, and now let's erase this. Now let's take the other vertex, which is at this point, and connect these two dots. So since this is at minus 7 and 5, this will be at 7 and 5, I think. Wait, let me just check. So 7 and 5. Wait. Oh, see this. So this does not form a 90 degrees. If I try 5 and 7, 5 and 7 is somewhere around this part. Five and 7 still does not form a 90 degree. Oh, 5 and 7 is somewhere around this part. Alright, now it forms a 90 degree. So that's the other coordinate. So now let's connect all of these vertices. So this is our triangle C. Moving on to the next part. Triangle D is the image of triangle A under a single transformation. Describe fully this transformation. So that's 3 meters. So triangle D. So from this image, we already know that this is an enlargement. So we can say that, so the first point is enlargement. Now we need to find the center point. So in order to find the center point during an enlargement, so connect the corresponding points of the triangle. So this point is equal, so these 2 points are corresponding vertices, and this point is another corresponding vertex, and this is another corresponding vertex. So as you can see, they intersect at one single point, which is -1 and 2. So this is the center point of the enlargement. Enlargement by scale factor. So we don't know the scale factor. We will find it out. Scale factor of this through center. The center is -1 and 2. So now let's find the scale factor enlargement. All right. As you can see that, let's take one corresponding side. Let's say I want to take this side. So this side and this side are corresponding sides of the same triangle, of the similar triangles. So as I can see that if this has a length of d, this will have a length of twice of d. So the scale factor is 2. But the thing is that the triangle is flipped. So if the triangle is flipped, it means it's looking like more of a reflection. I mean, if it was an enlargement by a scale factor of 2 only, the triangle should have a shape like this. Not like this. This is reversed. So the scale factor must be a negative value. So the scale factor is -2. So that is it for this part. Now moving on to the next part, triangle A is transformed to triangle E under the transformation with matrix M, where M is equals to this. So now we can just multiply the matrix M by the matrix of triangle A. So matrix M is -1, 0, and -2, multiplied by the triangle A, which is -2, 3, and -5, 1, and -7 and 5. So this will be equal to around -1 and -6, 4 and -2, and 2 and -10. So we just multiplied this by using the row and column method. So that's row and column. Right. Now this is the triangle E, which is -1 and -6, -1 and -6, and 4 and -2. So it's 4 and -2, and 2 and -10. 2 -10. So if we connect all of these points, we should have a triangle which looks somewhat like this. So this is the triangle E. Moving on to the next part, triangle E is transformed to triangle B under the transformation with matrix N. Alright, so as you can see that triangle E cannot transform to B without one single transformation. There must be at least 2 transformations. So first of all, wait. Triangle A is reflected in x-axis to give triangle B. So A is reflected in x-axis to give triangle B, and triangle A is transformed to triangle E under the transformation with matrix M. So A is transformed to E under the transformation with matrix M, and A is transformed to B with the matrix for reflection in x-axis. So this matrix will be 1, 0, 0, and -1. The cycle looks something like this. A to B is this, and A to E is this. So if you want to go directly from E to B, we just need this matrix. We already know the A to E matrix, which is the transformation matrix M. And E to B transformation matrix is N. And this transformation matrix is 1, 0, and 0, -1. Wait. That from E to B, the single matrix is N. So the matrix N will be equal to 1, 0 and 0 minus 1, which is the reflection in x-axis matrix, and the M inverse matrix multiplied by the M inverse matrix. So the M inverse matrix is so the inverse of a matrix is this. So let me just calculate the M inverse matrix. So this is the M inverse matrix. Now we just need to multiply this by the matrix in reflection in x-axis. It's minus 1, 0.5, 0 and negative 0.5. So this should give us a value of negative 1, 0.5, 0 and 0.5. So that is it for this question. So moving on to the next question, a particle P is moving in a straight line. At time t seconds, the displacement x meters of particle P from a fixed point O is given by this equation. At t, when t equals to, the velocity of the particle is 24 meters per second. Particle P comes to rest at the point A. Now we need to find the distance between point O and point A. All right, then so first of all, we know that if we differentiate distance or displacement, if we differentiate these two values, we will get velocity or speed. So if we differentiate this equation, we should get the value of velocity. So we can say that the velocity is equals to dx over dt, and the derivative of this will be 2kt minus 3t squared. All right. And we have an information that is when t equals to, the velocity of particle P is 24 meters per second. So using this information, we can find the value of k. So when t equals to, the velocity is 24. So 2k times 2 minus 3. 2 squared is 4. So the value of k will be 9. Alright, so finally we have an equation for velocity, which is v equals 18t minus 3t squared. Now let's find the value of t at the point A. We know that at point A the velocity is 0, so we can say that 0 equals 18t minus 3t squared. So the value of t will be 0 or 6. Usually we choose t equals 6, because at time t equals 0, the velocity will the particle was at rest at time t equals 0. So now we just need to find out the distance between O and A. Now if you substitute the value of t equals 6 into this equation, the question is that which distance will you get? You will get the distance between the point O and the point A, because this equation represents the distance of the particle from point O. So let's substitute this into the equation. So x is equals to 9 times t, I think it was t, alright, so it was t squared minus t cubed. So this should give you a value of 108 meters. So this is the answer. Moving on to the next question. The probability of a spinner landing on red is 0.6. This spinner is spun once write down the probability that the spinner does not land on red. So we know that the probability of red is 0.6. Now we just need to find out the probability of red prime, which is r prime. This can be written as 1 minus probability of red. So the answer of this will be 0.4. No. This spinner is spun twice. Calculate the probability that this spinner does not land on red either time. Which means that the scenario would look something like this. That is probability of red prime and probability of red prime. So we know that the probability of red prime, and since there's an and in this part, this will be probability of red prime multiplied by probability of red prime. So this can be written as 0.4 times 0.4, which is equals to around 0.16. Now this spinner is spun 140 times. Calculate the expected number of times the spinner will land on red. So if they ask you these types of questions, you just take the frequency, which is 140, and multiply it by the probability, which is 0.4. So this will be equal to around 84 times. So that's the answer of this. Now a bag contains n counters. The counters are red or blue or green, such that the number of red counters, so they have given the ratio of red, ratio blue, ratio green, which is equals to 2, ratio 1, ratio 1. A sample of 3 counters is taken at random from the bag without replacement. So this is an important part, without replacement. So every time he takes a sample, like a random counter, the total value of the counters will decrease by 1. I mean, the total value of the counters in the bag will decrease by 1. The probability of getting 2 red counters followed by a blue counter is 5/78. Calculate the probability of getting 3 green counters. Alright, so let's first find out that how many red counters are in the bag. So number of red counters will be the ratio of the red counter, which is 2, divided by the sum of the ratio, which is 4, multiply by the total number of counters, which is n. So it's simply n over 2. Now let's find out the number of blue counters. So it's basically the same thing, which is 1/4 times n. So it's n over 4. And number of green counters will be n over 4 also. So the probability of getting 2 red counters followed by a blue counter is 5/78. So which means that the scenario will look something like this. That is probability of red counter and red counter and blue counter. This will be equal to 5/78. So from this equation we can find out the value of n. So initially, to get the value of the red, the first pick to be the red counter, the probability of that will be n over 2, which is the required outcome, divided by the number of total outcomes. So that's the first pick. Now let's talk about the second pick. The second pick, let's say that the first pick was red counter. So from the second pick, the number of red counters in the bag will decrease by 1. Because in the first pick you have, you already took 1 red counter. So this will be n over 2 minus 1 divided by, and since we took a red counter from the bag on the first pick, the total number of counters in the bag will decrease by 1. So this is actually where the statement is, where this statement is useful. So this will be n minus 1 times, and let's talk about the blue counter. The blue counter will be n over 4, because in the previous 2 picks you did not choose a blue counter, so the number of blue counters will not decrease, but the number of total counters will decrease by 2, because you have already chosen 2 in the previous picks. So this will be equal to around 5 over 78. So we can just remove these brackets. All right. Now we can cancel out these 2 from the equation. So we get 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 times n minus 2 over 2n minus 2 times n over 4n minus 2 minus 8 equals 5 over 78. And then what we can do is that we can multiply this whole equation by 2. So the value of this will be 1 multiplied by, so you do not need to write this one. So it's n minus 2 over n minus 1 times n over 2n minus 4 equals 5 over 39. So let's simplify this equation. So this will be n squared minus twice of n over 2n squared so that's 6 plus 4 equals 5 over 39. Now if we cross multiply, move the denominators to the left hand side and the right hand side, we should get 39n squared minus 78n equals 10n squared minus 30n plus 20. Now if we simplify this further, we should get 29n squared plus, that's minus 48n minus 20 equals 0. So the value of n must be a whole number. Okay, so now I see the problem. So the problem is that this was in multiplied format. So you can multiply only once using, there are 3 values, so you can multiply only one value. So this will be, it's n minus 2 and 2n minus 2. Let's say I want to multiply 2 by this 1 over 2 value. So this will be 4n minus 8. So that's n squared minus twice of n. And So sorry for that. This will be 8n squared and minus 24n plus 16. So if we multiply this, this will be 39n squared minus 78n equals times 5, which is 40. 40n squared minus 120n plus 16 plus 80. So this should give us an equation of n squared and minus 120 plus 78, which is minus 42n, and plus 80 equals 0. So the values of n are So the values of n are 40, and n cannot be 2. N cannot be 2 because, as you can see, that if you substitute n equals 2 into this equation, this becomes 0. So the value of red counters cannot be 0. Alright. Now we just need to find the probability of getting 3 green counters. Alright. We know that the green counters probability is n over 4, which is 40. The number of green counters is n over 4, which is 40 over 4, that is 10 green counters. So they told us to find out the probability of green, and so to make this easier, I'm just gonna write it like this: green, green, and green. So this will be, the first one will be 10 over 40. The second one will be 9 over 39. The third one will be 8 over 38. So this should give us a probability of 3 over 247. So this is the answer. Moving on to the next question. This is about a right triangular prism, A, B, C, D, E, F. So they have given that the length of BH is 57.5. Alright, so this is written. Let's first find out the length of BF. So since this is a right angle triangle, we can say that sine 30 will be equal to opposite divided by the hypotenuse side, which is the BF. So the length of BF will be around 80 centimeters. So since this is 57.5, that will be, wait, let's just calculate this. That will be 22.5. Now from this we can calculate the length of EH. So this ABEF is a rectangle. So since this is a rectangle, this is 90 degrees. So we can get a triangle which looks like this. So this is E, and this is H, and this is F, and this is a right angle triangle. We know the length of HF to be 22.5, and the length of EF is 100. So from this we can find the length of EH. So the length of EH is 100 squared plus 22.5 squared root over. So this is equals to around 102.5 centimeters. So we have found the length of EH. Now let's assume that there's a point on the line FC such that this line will be horizontal. It's not horizontal. So let's assume that this is horizontal. So let's call this point X. So if this is 30 degrees, this will be 30 degrees also. So let's first find out the HX length. So since this is a right angle triangle, we can say that cos 30 is equals to HX over 22.5. So the value of HX is around 19.5 centimeters. So that's the value of HX. And let's assume that there's another point on the line BC such that this line is completely vertical. Let's call this point point Y. Now from this we can calculate the length of HY. So we can use the formula sine 30 equals HY over 57.5. So the value of HY is around 28.75 centimeters. So from this we can create another triangle which looks something like this. So this is also a right angle triangle because HY is completely vertical. So let's draw this triangle, which is the triangle DHY. So this is D and this is Y and this is H, and this is a right angle triangle. We know the value of HY to be 28.75. Now we need to calculate the length of DY. Wait. So I don't think we need this line. So let's erase this. Now if we want to calculate the length of DY, we can say that, alright, so no, we need this line. So let's first calculate the length of BC. So the length of BC will be around, we can use the tangent rule, which is tan 30 equals opposite, which is 40, divided by adjacent, which is the BC length. So the length of BC will be around 40 root 3 centimeters. So if BC is 40 root over 3 centimeters, then HC, wait, we can say that the length of HX and YC is the same because this is a rectangle. So we can create another triangle which is D, Y, and C. So the triangle will look something like this. So this is D, and this is C, and this is Y. So the length of YC will be the same as HX, which is 19.5. And the length of DC will be the same as EF. It's given in the question. So we can find out the length of DY. So we can say that dy equals 100 squared plus 19.5 squared. 100 squared plus 19.5 squared root over. So the value of this is around 101.9 centimeters. So this is the length of dy, which is 101.9 centimeters. Now we can calculate the length of DH. So the length of DH will be 101.9 squared plus 28.75 squared. And we're just gonna root over this. So the value of DH is around 105.9 centimeters. So this is the value of DH. Now we can create another triangle which looks something like this. So that's H, and this is F, and this is D. So the length of, oh, this is not F, this is E. So the length of ED will be 40, and the length of EH is 102.5, and the length of DH is 105.9. We just need to calculate this angle. This is the required angle. Let's call this theta. So we can say that 40 squared equals 102.5 squared plus 105.9 squared. So this is just the cosine rule. 2.5 times 105.9 cos theta. So from this we can get the value of theta. So the value of theta is around 22.1 degrees. So this is the answer. And wait, BC. So we did not need the length of BC. So this was unnecessary. So moving on to the next question. A Swiss company makes 3 different types of watches: diver, calendar, and automatic. The numbers of each type of watch, so we have a ratio. So wait, so this is the ratio, and the number of calendar watches the company makes in January is 54. Right, calculate the number of diver watches the company makes in January. So let's call the diver watches D. Oh, wait. So that's D is to C is to A. This will be equal to 4 is to 6 is to 5. All right, so we need the value of D. We know the value of C to be 54. So let's assume that the total watches produced in January is N. N is total watches. Oh shit. Total watches. So we can say that the calendar watches is 54, and we can create another equation for calendar watches, which is wait. So that's 6 over sum of ratio, which is basically the required ratio divided by the sum of ratio times the total number of watches. So that's 6 over 15. 6 over 15 times n is 54. So from this we can calculate the value of n, which is basically the total number of watches. So the total number of watches is 135. So now we just need to find out the number of diver watches. So diver watches will be the ratio of diver watches is 4. So that's 4 over 15 times the total watches. So that should give us value of 36. Alright, so moving on to the second part. Mel works for the company. She earns 30 Swiss francs for each hour worked, plus 6% of the value of the watches she sells. In January, Mel works 120 hours and sells watches to a value of 13,000 Swiss francs. Calculate the total amount Mel earns in January. So there's a fixed amount for her salary, which is for each hour she gets 32 francs. So let's add that. So the total amount will be equal to, so 32 francs for 1 hour. So for 120 hours, it will be 32 times 120. Plus she gets a commission on the watches, which is the 6% of the value of the watches she sells. She sells the watches to a value of 13,000 Swiss francs. So this will be 6% of that. So 6 over 100 times 13,000. So this should give us an answer of 4620 francs. So that is it for part B. Let's move on to the next part. In February, Mel works 150 hours and earns a total amount of 8040 francs. Calculate the value of watches Mel sells in February. So we need to create an equation to find the number of watches. So let's calculate his total earnings. So he worked a total of 150 hours. So it's 32 times 150 plus a 6% commission on the value of watches he sells. Let's say that the number of watches, the value of the watches is X. So this amount will be equal to 8040. So from this we can calculate the value of X, and the value of X is 54,000. So this is the answer. Now let's move on to part D. So in March, the company makes 250 automatic watches. The cost to make each automatic watch is 80 francs, 64%. Okay, so let's first find out the total cost price. So the cost price will be equal to 250 times, what was it? 80. So 250 times 80. So this will be equal to around 20,000 francs. Alright, so this is the cost price. Now 64% of these automatic watches are sold for 140 francs each. So let's first find out the number of watches which are sold for 140 francs. So the number of watches will be 64% of 250. So 64 over 100 times 250. So that's 160 watches. And the remaining automatic watches are sold in America for $216 each, $216. So the remaining number of watches will be 90. So that's 90 watches. And we need to use an exchange rate of 1 francs is equals to $1.08. Now we need to calculate the total profit in Swiss francs the company makes on this 250 automatic watches. So let's find the total selling price. So the total selling price will be, let's first find out how much is the selling price of this first 160 watches. So one watch is sold for 140 francs. So there are a total of 160 watches. So the selling price will be 140 times 160. Plus, now let's find out the selling price on the remaining watches. So that's 90 watches and it is sold at $216 each. So we know that for 1 franc, it's not 1 franc, for $1.08 represents 1 franc. So $216 will represent 216 over 1.08 francs. So this is the selling price for one single watch. So we need to multiply this selling price by 90. So that's 90 times 216 over 1.08. So this should give us a value of, wait, let me just check. So this gives a value of 4,400 francs. So the profit on the watches will be the selling price minus the cost price. So the selling price is 4,400. So that's 4,400 minus 20,000 francs. So this will be equal to around 2,400 francs. So this is the profit the company makes on this watches. Damn, it's more than 100%. Business boom. So moving on to the next question. A graph has equation this. Now, first of all, we need to complete the table of values for the graph. So when the value of x is -2, the value of y will be -1.5, and when the value of x is -1, this will be -1.75, and this will be -3.75. Now on the grid opposite, plot the points from a completed table and draw the graph. Okay, so -4 and 1.25. Wait, let me just draw this graph. So this is the final graph, and moving on to the third part, which is using a graph find estimates to one decimal place of the solutions of the equation this. Alright, so okay, so as you can see that this is the graph we sketched So we can set this equation to y equals 0, and y equals 0 means where it cuts the x-axis. So the points where it cuts the x-axis are, okay, so that's negative, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so negative 0. So negative 0.4, so negative 0.4, and negative 3.3, negative 3.3, and positive 3.567, 3.7. So that's that. Now moving on to the second part. We need to find the range of values for x in which this inequality exists. So as you can see, this is somewhat similar to this equation, to the previous equation we sketched. We just need to alter this value. So there needs to be a negative 3 in this part. So what we can do is that we can subtract 1 from both sides of the inequality. So it looks something like this, which is negative 1 over 6 and 0 minus 1. So this should give us an equation of 1 over 4 x squared negative 3 negative 1 over x is less than or equal to negative 1. And we know that this equation is equals to y. So we can write this as y is less than or equal to negative 1. Which means that we need to draw the line y equals negative 1. So y equals negative 1 is this line. Right. Equals minus 1. So our graph's equation must be less than negative 1. So in this region, our graph is less than negative 1. So at this point, the value of x is negative 2.5, and at this point, the value of x is negative 0.5. And at this point, the value of x is, if we round this off to 1 decimal place, it will be 3.1. So we can say the range of inequalities are this. So it's negative 0.5 and negative 2.5. And the other inequality is x is less than 3.1. So this region, in this region, the value of the x is, the value of y is less than negative 1. And at this point, the value of x is 0.5. So the other inequality would be x is, oh wait, so it's x is this, and 3.1, 3.1, and the other is 0.5. So this is the answer. Moving on to the next question, we have an equation f(x), and we know that 2x plus 1 is a factor of f(x). We need to show that 2p plus q is equals to negative 3. So we know that if we substitute x equals negative half into this equation, the value of f(x) will be 0. So So this will be 6 negative half whole cubed. So that's minus 6b minus 1 x squared. So that's negative half squared. So this will be 1 over 4. And this will be negative 1 over 8. And minus half. So this is positive half. So that's 5p plus q. And plus 2 equals 0. So now let's simplify this. So simplifying this should give us negative 3 over 4 and minus 3 over 2p plus 1 over 4 plus 5 over 2p and plus 1 over 2q plus 2 equals 0. Now if we add all the add up all the values, that's negative 3 over 4 plus 1 over 4 and plus 2. So this will be 3 over 2. And this is plus p. And that will be 1 over 2q equals 0. We need to show it in this format. So if we multiply this whole equation by 2, it should give us 2p plus q equals negative 3. So that is it for the first part. Now for the second part, we need to, given that x minus p is also a factor of fx, find the value of p and q. Okay. So, okay. Which means that if we substitute x equals p into fx, this should give us a value of 0. So let's substitute this. So if and p equals 0. So that will be 6p cubed and minus p squared. 6p minus 1 minus p, 5p plus q. Plus 2. So now if we simplify, expand this, so 6p cubed minus 6p cubed plus p squared minus 5p squared and minus pq plus 2 equals 0. So these two cancels out and we have minus minus 4p squared minus pq plus 2 equals 0. Right. Well, we can also if we use this first equation, we can replace q with minus 3 minus twice of p. So if we do that, this should give us minus p and minus 3 minus twice of p. So minus 3 minus twice of p plus 2 equals 0. So from this equation, we will get our value of p and q. P only. So it's plus 3p plus 2 equals 0. So that's minus 2p squared plus 3p equals 0. So the value of p will be, p and q are integers, so there are actually two values of p. P is equals 2 and p cannot be negative half because p is an integer, it cannot be a fraction or a decimal. So from this we can calculate the value of q. The value of q will be minus 3 minus twice of p, which is negative 7. Now we just need to fully factorize fx. Alright, so let's write the equation for fx again. So if we rewrite this fx equation, it will be 6x cubed and minus 6p minus 1, which is the value of p is 2. So this is 6 into 12 minus 1, that is 10x squared minus 5p plus q. So 5p plus q, it will be p plus q. So this will be 3x, I mean negative 3x plus 2. So this is the equation of fx. Now we can use the long division method or since it's only 2 marks, I think it would be better if we don't use the long division method. Let's use the trial and error method. So when the value of x is okay, so there's a problem with this. This will be 11. So if we substitute x equals 1 over 3 into this equation, you can show them that the value of fx is 0. So now you can say that 3x minus 1 is a factor. So now if we want to write fx in fully factorized format, it will be 3x minus 1 times 2x, what was that, 2x plus 1 times x minus 2. So that is it for this part. Now moving on to the next question, we have a function fx and the domain is given, which is x is greater than 1. Find the value of m for which fm equals 0. So we can set the equation fm equals 0. So the value of x will be 5 over 2. Okay. Now there's another function gx. We need to calculate the value of g minus 1. Now if we substitute x equals minus 1 into this gx function, so that will be minus 2 plus 1. So that should give us a value of negative 15. Now state the value of x for which which must be excluded from any domain for g. Now we know that for the function gx, the denominator cannot be 0. So let's say that no, this cannot be 0, which means there must not be any of values of x which makes the denominator 0. So when x equals negative half, the denominator becomes 0 and you cannot divide anything by 0, which is 7 minus 8x divided by 0. This will be a technical error. So The value of x for which must be excluded from any domain for g will be x equals negative half. Now we need to find the value for x for which these two functions equate. So the function fx is 2x minus 5 and the function gx is 7 minus 8x over 2x plus 1. Over 2x plus 1. So this will be 4x squared. That's minus 8x and minus 5 equals 7 minus 8x. So if you rearrange this equation, this will be 4x squared. Okay, so these two cancels out. So it's 4x squared equals 7 plus 5, which is 12. So the value of x will be equal to around 1.73. Now h is a function, there's another function h. We need to express this function in this format, in a perfect square format. So first of all, let's take the h function. We need to use this formula, which is x squared. Let's say it's plus or minus bx. This can be written as x plus or minus b over 2 whole squared minus b over 2 whole squared. Now if we look at the hx function, it looks something like this, which is 2x squared plus 4x and minus 5. Now as you can see that in the formula, the coefficient of x squared must be 1. If it is not 1, you cannot apply the formula. So if it is not 1, like in this case, it's not 1, it's 2, you have to make it 1. So let's take 2 common from this part. So it will be x squared plus 2x minus 5, and you really don't need to take 2 common from minus 5 also. You can just leave this to the side. So because this is the thing you're looking for, not this one. As you can see, also in the formula, there is no plus c in this part. So that's irrelevant for perfect square. And if we apply this formula, it will be x plus 1 whole squared minus 1 minus 5. So arranging this will be 2x plus 1 whole squared minus 7. Right, now we need to find the inverse function hx for that. So if we want to find out the inverse function hx, the first step is to replace hx with y. So this will be y equals 2x plus 1 whole squared and minus 7. And then you need to make x the subject. So if you make x the subject, this will be x plus 1 whole squared. So this is x plus 1 whole squared equals y plus 7 over 2. So if you make x the subject, this should give you a value of root over y plus 7 over 2 minus 1. Alright, now the final step is to write the function in this way, that if in I think it was h, yep, h inverse x, which is the inverse function, will be equal to, you just need to replace this y with x, then you're good to go. So this will be root over x plus 7 over 2 minus 1. So this is the inverse function. So that is it for this question. So moving on to the next question. So this is actually construction maths. So first of all, we need to draw the locus of points that are 3 centimeters from B. So what you will do is that you'll take your compass, and let's say that there are 2 points on the compass, which is this is the pencil and this is the needle. Now you'll measure 3 centimeters between 3 centimeters distance between the pencil and the needle in your compass with a ruler, and then you'll put the needle in part B and draw a circle, an arc of a circle which is 3 centimeters from B. So it should look something like this. And then we need to draw the perpendicular bisector of AC. So I'll leave a video in the comments to draw, how to draw the perpendicular bisector and the angle bisector and the locus of points. So for now, the perpendicular bisector should look something like this. So this is one side and this is the other side. And the angle bisector of ACB. So the angle bisector should look something like this. So that is it. And the region R consists of all the points inside the triangle that are closer to A than C. Alright, 3 centimeter will be much longer. So let's say that this is 3 centimeters. Now the region R consists of all the points. Wait. So that's that. This is of all the points that are closer to A than to C. Closer to A than to C. All right. Now, and closer to BC than to AC. Closer to BC than to AC. And are more than 3 centimeters from AB. So first of all, let's talk about this information, that are closer to A than to C. So as you can see that these two regions are eliminated. So these two regions are gone. Now let's talk about the second information, which is closer to BC than to AC. So this region is eliminated. So this region is not part of the equation, and are more than 3 centimeters from B. So more than 3 centimeters. So this is not the region. So this is the region they're talking about. So this is the region R. So you just need to shade this. So this is region R. So that is it for this question.